At San Francisco, 200 men and women of 50 nations labored to build an organization that will outlaw war for all time.
7 decades ago, the United Nations was founded to ensure international peace and human rights for all. But over time, the world body has become a safe haven for brutal regimes. When dictators hijack UN committees to cover up their abuses, UN Watch leads the fight to uphold the founders' dream.
We have breaking news out of Syria this morning.
Almost 1 century after chemical weapons were banned by the civilized world, we are sadly witnessing another chemical attack in Syria.
Just 2 days later, UN Watch revealed that Syria would become chair of the UN Committee on Disarmament, the very one that banned chemical weapons. UN Watch's protest sparked a firestorm.
That would be an outrage.
It's grotesque that Syria presides over a body it has done so much to flout.
UN Watch launched a global campaign urging countries to walk out.
Menschenrechtsorganisationen wie UN Watch.
Pressure mounted, and a broad coalition condemned Syria's presidency as it took up the gavel.
We encourage others to join us to express their outrage at Syria's actions.
The U.S. and other countries walked out. Thanks to UN Watch, Syria's propaganda ploy was foiled.
Syria's presidency of the Conference of Disarmament is a travesty.
Cuba sits on the UN Human Rights Council. Yet the communist dictatorship tramples human rights, imprisoning activists like Dr. Eduardo Carde. When Cuba went before a UN review of its human rights record and told lies, UN Watch brought high-level dissidents to tell the truth. UN Watch exposed how Cuba cheated, orchestrating submissions of praise from hundreds of groups with no connection to human rights. Exposed before the world, Cuba lashed out at UN Watch.
We denounce the statements made by United Nations Watch. These are front organizations financed by the United States.
Undeterred, UN Watch filed a legal brief against Cuba before a UN tribunal, demanding the release of Dr. Carde. Unanimously, the international panel ruled in favor of UN Watch, calling on Cuba to immediately release the political prisoner. A victory for UN Watch and for Cuba's human rights heroes who courageously defy the regime. Defenders of the UN say it needs a big tent, participation from dictatorships, so they learn and improve.
The president always believes in dialogue, bringing people together and getting them to hash out their issues.
I ask all those here who propagate the big tent theory. Since Vladimir Putin's Russia was elected again and again to this council, did he learn and improve since Venezuela was elected and re-elected to this council? Did Chavez and Maduro learn and improve, or did they arrest, persecute, and jail more opposition leaders like Mayor Antonio Ledesma of Caracas?
Point of order from Venezuela.
It is unacceptable for this Human Rights Council for an NGO to use offensive language which is not allowed by the regulations of the United Nations.
What is offensive is that Venezuela kills protesters and uses this council as carte blanche to cover up their abuses. Big tent, Mr. President?
Thank you very
no,
much.
big lie. Back home in China, 1 million Uyghurs have been arbitrarily detained.
I request the President to make a ruling to stop the statement.
We believe that the Speaker should be allowed to continue.
I give the floor back to the Speaker now.
1 million Uyghurs have been arbitrarily detained in extra-legal political re-education camps. There's not a single resolution speaking out on behalf of Muslim Uyghurs who are being subjected to the worst forms of discrimination.
When the UN gives a free pass to the worst regimes, UN Watch brings dissidents to speak before hundreds of diplomats, journalists, activists, and students.
20 masked special operation officers stormed my home. All guns pointed at me. They asked if I was Nurcan Baysal.
I got arrested 3 times, I got tortured, but I was lucky enough to be released, unlike many of my fellow Syrians.
3 schoolgirls aged 15, 16 and 17 are currently in jail for allegedly scribbling over the president's photograph.
My mental condition deteriorated beneath endless isolation, interrogations, and psychological and physical torture.
Thanks to UN Watch, human rights heroes get their message out to the world. This past year, UN Watch was recognized by McGill University, which bestowed its highest honor on the organization's executive director.
UN Watch has been an innovator, creating global platforms for courageous dissidents and champions of human rights from around the world.
Sometimes the United Nations is far away from these issues. UN Watch brought real victims into contact with the United Nations community.
You cannot imagine without UN Watch, the dictators would have no check and balance.
UN Watch, fighting to defend the true principles of human rights.